Pretty tasty.
Nice and soft. These are nice big ones for s'mores too. So
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just imagine that between two graham crackers.
yeah.
You're onto something in life then. You're going to start with this pointless conversation, aren't you?
Probably. We'll just dive in.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Hello, everybody.
Man.
We were just enjoying some worthless small talk and some, of our sponsor,
Yeah.
which is Jet Puffed S'more Mallows. They're marshmallows, but strategically shaped
Yeah.
to be like the perfect size to go on your graham cracker there.
Delicious. I love marshmallows.
110 calories for two. So that's really not bad.
That doesn't seem as bad as I might have thought.
Yeah, I know, right? Considering they're basically just aerated sugar.
Yeah, it's not so bad. So is my math correct that on a 2,000 calorie diet I could have about 40 of these a day? Is that accurate? It may not be.
I'm not even going to bother going
Yeah,
there.
it's not worth it.
I'm just going to tell you, please do not have a diet of just marshmallows.
You know,
Honestly, that goes to everybody. Please
Yeah.
do not do that.
I used to work overnight for like a year, and it was just at like kind of this boys' facility place where I basically was in a dorm, and I'd just have to check on. So I wasn't doing a whole lot, but often I would stop before work overnight, and I would get the tub of marshmallow cream. And made sure I had a spoon, and that would be my snack. Explains a lot right now of a predicament that we're currently in.
You might be diabetic.
I might have the diabetes. So anyway, enough about us and my diabetes.
Presumed diabetes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome. Welcome. This will be the fourth. We decided last one was the third of the season.
So. Yeah, I believe that's
accurate. So fourth of the 2021 season.
Yeah.
Which would be 29th total, I think.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll dive in. We've got a good question that I think is going to lead into maybe even further discussion next week.
Right.
Do we have a random?
Yeah, I just pulled that off the wall.
Okay.
Here's our random. I think I know how I would answer this, but there's a couple things to consider, okay? Here's our random off-the-wall question of the night. Would you rather? It's a classic
setup. Yeah.
would you rather scenario. Would you rather go back to age 5 and know everything you know now, or know now everything your future self will learn? So you got two options there. You can go back to 5 knowing everything you know now, or know everything now that your future self will know.
I'm going B. Staying how I am now.
You're staying
just
now.
Knowing everything from my future self.
So you're staying here and going with the future. So yeah, this is a tricky one for me. I'm like right in the middle of life, kind of, right? Like, guessing. I could be right at the end for all I know.
Sure.
Not at the beginning.
Halfway to dead is where.
I feel like you learn a lot. You know what I mean? A lot in your first, 20, 25, 30, 40 years of life.
Mostly through error.
Mostly through mistakes.
Yeah.
So you could go back. I might go back.
Yeah.
I might go back. I'm thinking also of all the bets you could make.
Yeah, that's true. Make a lot of that.
And be very rich.
Go back and not eat. not eat marshmallow cream.
No, that would still happen. That's ridiculous.
I don't even know why I suggested it.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
So we diverged on that one. You would stay here, go forward with the knowledge you're going to gain.
Yeah.
I would go back and be 5 again. Oh, come on. That sounds pretty good. You know how good of a life a 5-year-old has?
Yeah, that's a valid point. It just, you've got to... I don't know. My younger years were just not good for me.
Yeah, you're like,
I don't want to relive
those.
that.
Yeah. Okay, that's a question for you all to discuss out there.
Yeah.
In the
As always,
World Wide Web.
Feel free to let us know in the comments. So far, not a single person.
Nobody's joined in on that?
I think actually. Well, no, never mind.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
Disappointing. Okay, well, let's get on to our serious question. Like Dave said, it's a good question, and the overall context would be kind of about like, are there errors in the Bible? Are there inconsistencies in the Bible? Incongruencies? There's another word that I'm looking for that I can't think of.
Yeah, I was trying to think of it too while you were talking.
I came up with 3 other words, but not
conflicts.
Conflicts, maybe.
Yeah.
Contradictions.
Contradictions. There it is. That's exactly the word.
That's the word. The overall topic tonight, and maybe going forward, would be to look at some of the apparent, I would say, contradictions in the Bible. Something important for Christians to consider. You may very likely get asked that question if you're bold about your faith and people know that you're a Christian. That's a key, but you may get asked that question about maybe some apparent contradictions. So it'd be nice to be able to answer that. So this is a specific one that somebody submitted. Their question is, why are there 2 different genealogies for Jesus, one in Matthew and one in Luke? All right, there are 2 different genealogies for Jesus, and they are a very different list of people.
Yeah, I think that
a very different list of.
Between the point of like David and Christ, I think they only have 2 names in common.
Okay,
apart from like David and obviously Jesus. Apart from those 2, I think between that gap, they only have like 2, I think, names in common. And I'm actually going to go ahead and just get out of the way a possible explanation that I don't think holds any water whatsoever.
So you don't like this explanation?
I don't like it, and I don't think you will either as soon as I say it. Okay, so one possible explanation is that the genealogies are completely fabricated and not accurate.
Oh, okay. They just
made them up. They just made them up in order to try and tie it back to the house of David, because the house of David is where the Messiah was supposed to come from, right? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, the reason I really don't think that holds much water is because both the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of Matthew were written early enough on that there were some eyewitnesses in the time who could have contradicted it easily. You know, if it were, if it were to the point where, it was something clearly fabricated, then they would have brought forward eyewitnesses. And it's not like, I mean, even early on as like, no, I lost the name, but one of the early rulers who persecuted Christians, like he tried to use that as a method of saying that Christianity was completely false because of that. And I mean, he failed. It's just kind of one of those deals where when you look at it like that, it just doesn't make a whole lot of. Yeah. It's just illogical to presume that it's completely 100% fabricated because of like the evidence. It would have been discredited before now.
It would have been a very poor job of fabrication.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have made any sense. And that's a lazy, I think, explanation to me. In some ways, if somebody goes with that, they're just kind of being lazy and be like, oh, they just made them up. So that's not, I'm with you. That's not a great.
But I did want to address it.
Sure.
Because it is technically a possible explanation.
Yeah. For me, I think I found, just in some limited research, but I found kind of 3 potential explanations. So I may start going through maybe some of those. One would be, so you gotta recognize that things were different back then than they are now. So like, what was the term? Levirate marriage. Yeah. It would have been basically, there were Jewish laws that would say, if I had children and I passed away, my brother would basically step in and be considered their father.
Yeah, be considered, Lisa's legal wife at that point.
Legally speaking, that my brother would be their father, and so. That's one of the explanations, is that, I can't remember which one. Okay, Matthew was maybe looking at more of the biological lineage, which would be more of what we would think of as of a genealogy.
Yeah.
The
this
biology.
person gave birth to this person, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and the other, Luke, would be looking at more the
legal
side of it. And so that's a potential explanation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm probably another one of those things where I don't know that I've done enough research to say, oh, I'm 100% sure it's this.
Yeah.
But context matters, and recognizing that context could have been different for them at the time in terms of Jewish law and how the legalities would have played out. That is a potential explanation.
Yeah.
And so...
Also, I mean, just looking at the different writers are obviously going to approach it depending on their personal emphasis, what they want to focus on.
Right.
Right. That's going to change how they approach it.
Yeah. Another potential explanation, if that's okay. I'll go on. The thing I read said, I think this was a Got Questions, which we're big fans, but was saying that it's potential that Luke was recording Mary's genealogy and Matthew is recording Joseph's. Mm-hmm. And so that would be another simple kind of explanation as to why those would be very different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Mary's is one side. And it would be odd and I think this article maybe said this, but it would be odd to record his mother's genealogy, but virgin birth is not exactly a normal occurrence. Right. And so it might make a little bit of sense that you would trace it back according to kind of Mary's line.
Especially, looking at the fact that technically speaking, Jesus had no biological relationship to Joseph.
Right.
And I mean, in a loose sense, the closest biological relationship would have been Mary.
Right.
So
and kind of looking at that of okay, that's the bloodline, so to speak.
Right.
And so, there's potential for that to be.
Yeah.
I'll give one more. I don't know if you have any other. You have other reasons.
I mean, most of mine are pretty much yours.
Okay.
And I might just go a little bit more kind of along with that.
Another explanation. So far we've got the idea that there is biological and legal. Okay. We've got the idea that there is Mary's and Joseph's line. Mm-hmm. And then this other idea was there could be a royal and a physical. So the physical is still there, kind of like the biological, physical genealogy. But the royal genealogy would be from the line of David. And this came from, it was actually a North American Mission Board website that they gave some reasons about this. But they said, in other words, Matthew's list is the official line of Davidic kings, not Jesus' actual ancestors. Because that was always a big deal, right? In the Bible, like Jesus is going to come from the line of David, and so the list would be the list of Davidic kings, kind of down through the line, and basically to show that Joseph is related to that line. So there's another potential explanation, and so I'll make one more point, and then I'll let Dave kind of take over. But I guess I just want to say one overall thing about these like apparent contradictions. Don't assume that there's no answer. You know what I mean? Don't just let somebody confidently say, well, the Bible has all kinds of contradictions. And don't just assume that that's right. No matter how confidently they say it, there's very often, if not every time, a logical, reasonable explanation for this particular one. I think that those three are at least potential, logical, reasonable, explanations as to why that contradiction, in quotations, would be there. And so that's a big thing for me that I think sometimes Christians do too often is somebody confidently presents a challenge and you just accept what they're saying just because they say it confidently and act like they know what they're talking about. Their bias can be so thick against the Bible that they don't even want to, or maybe have never looked at the actual evidence for what they're making a definitive claim about, So don't be quick to just be like, oh, okay, you're probably right. Like actually look into it, study, do some of these things that, So.
Yeah, Gregory Kokel calls that the professor's ploy. Either A, it's someone in a position of authority, or B, it's someone who just states it confidently that
I like that. The professor's ploy.
Professor's ploy, yeah. You know, and it doesn't matter how confidently I hold up my cell phone and say, this is a duck. No, really, this is a duck. Look at it. Look, it's a duck. It's still not a duck. Yeah, didn't you hear it quack? Yeah, I mean, it's still a phone.
Yeah.
So yeah, feel free, and along that note, never be afraid to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me look into that.
Yep.
Let me ask some people who might know a little bit better. Or do you mind if I do some research before I try to answer? You can't know everything. It is physically impossible.
Yeah, it's funny. I just saw a tweet from Dr. Marshall. He used to be the pastor at Second Baptist and retired, but he was talking in the tweet about how sometimes Christians are so afraid to approach others because they're afraid of the questions they may get, and he was like, 3 very powerful words are, I don't know, right? and that's perfectly fine. Like Dave said, we don't know. That's the reality, is we don't know everything. So don't let that fear. This is a side topic that I like to chase, but don't let that fear of the unknown make you not evangelize and talk to people about Jesus. And saying I don't know is perfectly fine.
Yeah. And you know what? Something that's back to the topic, something that will help give your explanations for, if you're ever approached, let's say you're approached by a non-Christian about this whole, the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew and Luke, I mean, they're totally different. How do you explain that? Feel free to look into it, and B, look into possible discredits for some of the explanations, because it's just going to make your knowledge all that much more. So, for example, the one about where one is explaining the line of Joseph and the other one is explaining the line from Mary. One of the arguments against that theory is that, both of them start by saying, the line of Joseph through. They both start by implying this is the line of Joseph. One easy explanation is that, the parent to Joseph that's mentioned is actually Mary's parent, but legally became Joseph's parent after marriage. Right? In which case, it's still accurate. It is a potential weak point in that theory. Right. But by knowing that argument against it, you're then prepared to know counters.
Yeah,
right?
And I think be willing to, like, for example, if you look more into that particular argument, be willing to say, like, that's not a great argument. That's not a great point. I agree with you on that. This
is something that actually, even dating back to early Christians, early theologians struggled to come up with a good 100% answer for this, which is why we gave you 3 different potential theories.
Yeah.
Because, it's not like there's a 100% definitive, here's why they're different. Unfortunately, the people who wrote it, they're dead. We can't just go and ask them, hey, where did you get this genealogy? What's it based on? We just don't have that kind of opportunity.
No, yeah.
So,
anything else to add, Dave? Any other? I think in our title we say wisdom. Any other wisdom to potentially add?
I think that, and you were kind of talking about this with the whole line of David, is that in some cases, the genealogy may be based more on the fulfillment of prophecy than focusing on that this was the exact person, but someone from that family group type of thing. There's also the potential that in those 2 genealogies that we skip some generations. So keep that in mind as well. The overall reason, I guess, if we wanted to kind of simplify why the 2 genealogies are different, is because, they're written by people.
Yeah.
Doing their best to accurately record historical events, but
I'll probably make this point again at some point at one of our videos, but one of the things I read said that a partial report is not a false report.
Right.
So if Dave gives a report about something that happened and he goes into all great detail and tells exactly everything that happened, and I'm like, And I was there as well,
Yeah.
and I give a 10-second report. Now, I may have missed out on a lot of the details that he did, but it could still be that the parts that I said were true.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Yeah.
you do have people, and you see that in the Gospels, in various places. It's people giving reports. One of I don't know if I want to go on this. There's another contradiction is at the grave. One of the Gospels reports 2 angels, another reports 1 angel.
And then there's one that talks about a whole heavenly host that's
Right.
absent from the other gospel accounts.
Yeah,
I was actually just talking about that earlier today with someone.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorite contradictions between the gospels.
Why is it your favorite?
I honestly don't. I think because it appears in all 4.
Okay.
And all 4 are slightly different.
They're different.
And so it's just one of the easiest to compare. And also, I mean, if it were false, there's so many different weak points that early persecutors of Christianity could have pointed to and been like, oh, this is a weak point in the story.
Right.
But they failed, obviously, quite
Yeah.
miserably to completely discredit those accounts. So I think that's why. But it just something when we start getting into that particular contradiction, I just get kind of one of those.
Okay,
that
we'll
just kinda gets me
say
excited.
we'll say
So,
that.
Okay.
We won't go into that one anymore. I didn't know, Dave. That's such a reaction to the angel.
Just
So
never know what's going to stir.
I think we'll go forward with this for a little bit. So it'll be a little bit different over the next few weeks. In terms of it's not necessarily a viewer question, but it's springboarding off of this particular viewer question because I think it's important to be able to have some answers when we can. And I know that we said it's okay to say I don't know, and that's true. But if you can't have an answer, you might as well have an answer. So I think we'll go forward. Feel good? Feel good about that so far? I think we usually feel pretty good about ourselves.
Yeah.
Probably unwarranted.
Very unwarranted, I would say.
Okay, I shortchanged you. Should I go ahead and do dad jokes or should we do your part? I can't remember which we do first.
Normally we do the nerdy thing.
Okay, let's do your part.
Okay.
I have some terrible dad jokes
Terrible dad jokes. Not even get the good dad jokes.
tonight. No.
Well, that was a fail. There you go. Okay. All right. So this one's kind of fun.
Okay.
Despite only making up 3% of your body weight, your brain consumes 20% of your caloric intake.
Interesting, really.
1/5
1/5
of what you eat every day gets used up by your brain. And that's just to maintain normal levels of activity.
Oh man.
Have you ever taken a test or done a Sudoku or something like that?
Wow.
That increases it. I know for me personally, if I took a really hard test, I would always be tired afterwards.
Yeah.
That's part of it. You're burning up so much more energy.
That may explain a little bit. I'm tired on Sundays after I preach. And it's probably because my brain is working actually. Hopefully.
As opposed to the rest of the week.
The rest of the week.
Yeah.
Pastors only work 1 hour a week, right? That's what
That's it.
But that is not true, and I'll give you a list of how that's not true. But that's interesting. 20%.
Yeah.
It would be. I wonder if there are ever studies or what's the highest percentage someone has used of their calories in a day with their brain.
I would also be interested to see people with a higher IQ. Do they
use
burn?
less
Yeah.
because
Do they
it's
use
easier for them?
Yeah.
Or do they burn more?
more because they're constantly thinking?
Using more and thinking a lot.
Yeah.
That
Also,
would be
yeah,
interesting.
I would like to point out that if you ever start reading any sort of article about getting healthy or anything like that, along with diet and I know, right?
Sorry, go ahead.
Along with diet and exercise, a lot of experts will recommend starting to read things that make you think.
Yeah.
So not fiction, but non-fiction books that just make you think. It makes your brain work because it's going to burn more calories just naturally sitting on your butt next to the fire reading a book. But also, of course, it improves your ability to think critically and to
I'll be honest with you. I didn't even know that burnt any calories.
Yeah.
Let alone 20%.
Yeah. It's basically and Someone out there who's either a doctor or a scientist will be upset with this characterization.
Okay.
But your brain is basically just a meat sponge in a puddle of sugar water.
Wow. Amy Farrah Fowler just lost her mind. You know who that is?
You know, not just her, but the actress who plays her.
She is
actually in
We'll leave that for anybody. Well, I'm going to explain that one to you.
Just
Either
look
know
that
or
one
you
up.
know.
Yeah.
Interesting. So to say that again, it is a what?
It is a meat sponge in a pool of sugar water.
Oh boy! Wow. There you go. A meat sponge. That's the kind of stuff you get on this program. This show.
I'm interested now because normally whenever I do the little thumbnail for these videos,
How are you gonna do meat sponge?
I just take random things and so like if I Google meat sponge, I just want to see what pops up.
I don't know.
Want to see.
I don't know.
Pops up.
All right. Yeah. Who knows? Okay. I have 4 not good dad jokes for you. I only gave you 1 last time, so I went with 4 this time.
Okay.
Just making up for lost time. What, Dave, is brown and sticky?
I don't know, Kevin. What?
A stick.
Okay. Wow. I can feel my IQ going down.
You're burning calories.
Okay.
That's fine. How do you get a country girl's attention? A tractor.
Oh, I like that.
You like that?
I like that.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I think I've used this one before, but I ran across it again, and so I liked it. What do you call a pudgy psychic? A 4-chin teller. 4 chins, 4 chin, 4 chin. Oh man, this one's the worst of the bunch.
Okay.
Why did the man fall down the well? Because he couldn't see that well.
Oh, man.
Those are better than I thought, actually, now that I say them all out loud. Not bad. Not bad.
Sometimes you really just have to verbalize it before it hits home.
Exactly. So. All right, well, keep the questions coming. I know we just said we're going to do a couple of weeks of maybe not your questions, but we will need them after that.
Sometimes it takes us several weeks to get to a good question anyway, because honestly, we'll put some of them off because we just don't feel qualified.
They're going to burn too many calories.
They're going to burn too many calories trying to get ready. Trying to get ready to answer these questions. But
yeah, keep them coming. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Have a great day. Adios.